This is Port Eynon, beautiful little bay here. Just over an hour away from Swansea city centre by bus, about 20-25 minutes in the car. And it's busy here in the summer, but if you come in the autumn and the winter, then you've got the place, just you, a few dog walkers and the local wildlife. One bird you get a really good chance of seeing here is the cormorant, and there's one just landed on a rock here. Its wings are out drying its feathers, and what's happened is that it's been fishing in the sea, but the feathers are not completely waterproof. If they were, they wouldn't be able to dive down to catch the fish. But what it does mean is that every now and again they've got to come to land and dry out those feathers, and that's exactly what this one's doing now. It's well worth popping into the dunes here, and one of the flowers you'll see in summer right through till the autumn is this. It's called the evening primrose, and what's interesting about this is the fact that it's more scented at night than it is during the day, and the reason for that is because it's actually pollinated by moths. Oh, look at this little beauty. Wasn't expecting this. It's a kind of beetle, oh, right up on my hand, that's quite good, called a devil's coach horse. And this association with the devil goes back to the Middle Ages. And when it feels threatened, it'll lift up its tail and it'll open its big jaws. And it looks a little bit like a scorpion. Now, it hasn't got a sting, but it can bite. I'm hoping this one doesn't bite. And those jaws it'll use to feed on, whoops, sorry boy, come back up here. It'll use to feed on snails, slugs, earthworms, moths, all kinds of things. And usually only comes out at night. So it's quite unusual to have it in the middle of the day like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in cover over there. Come on, I'll put you down now. Whoop, you get down there. Making a small detour down this peninsula. It's called Sedge's Bank, and it's a Wildlife Trust of South and West Wales Reserve. But I've got to stop and have a look at this beautiful carving. Look at that. Someone's carved a barn owl and just left it out here. Isn't that lovely? So at first I didn't think there were many birds out there, but you stop and have a proper look, and there are waders, like there's ring plover, there's turnstone, there's sanderling out there, and then the gulls. I thought were black-headed gulls. Well, they're not. Most of those are actually Mediterranean gulls. They were once very scarce, but there must be, what, 20 or 30 of them out there. Now, this is an interesting building. It's the old salt house. Now, rumour has it that it was built in the early 16th century, initially as a place to smuggle goods ashore. But we know that a few years later it was converted to a salt house. And what they did was they pumped seawater in, and they had heated pans here, even way back then. So the water itself evaporated, leaving the salt. And of course, in those days, salt was a very precious commodity, and it's the only salt house of its type left in the whole of Wales now. Well, at this point you can always loop back to the village, but I'm actually going to carry on along the coast because there's always a possibility I might get to see a rare bird called a chough on the cliffs there. Go and have a look now. And if you find yourself hungry and thirsty, well, I can highly recommend the Ship Inn. The food is fantastic, it's dog friendly, and if you come by bus, well, the local ales are well worth a taste. This is Park Wood owned and managed by Natural Resource Wales. It's only about 40 minutes from the middle of Swansea on the bus. What's that, 20 minutes in the car? Now, it's a big site, 164 hectares in all, and it's got some of the oldest plantation woodland in the whole of Wales, dating back to 1851. Just passing this old ash tree here now, and you see black spots on them, which are fungus. They're called tar balls, or a better name on them is King Alfred's cakes, because if you remember your history, King Alfred is meant to have burnt his cakes, and those cakes resemble those little tar balls on the tree. There's a lot of history in this place. Look at this. This is a Neolithic burial chamber, which means that they would bury the dead here between around 4,000 and 5,000 years ago. But it's not the only bit of history in this valley. Just the other side over there, that's a lime kiln, and there they would have mixed the limestone, the rock, with fuel to produce lime that they would then have put on the land to fertilise the soil. Nice to see that they've allowed this area to go just a little bit wild. It's got meadowsweet and knapweed that's all gone over now, but the seeds are really important, and there's a flock of goldfinches up in an ash tree here just waiting for me to pass through so that they can then come down and feed on all the food here. This year has been a fabulous year for acorns. There are thousands of them. Look at these on the floor here, underneath this huge specimen oak. Beautiful, beautiful tree. And I have heard a few jays around calling from the woods, but they're shy birds. And your best chance often of seeing them is underneath an oak tree like this, where they'll carry and bury acorns. And they say that a single jay can bury over 5,000 acorns. Now, it'll remember probably where most of them are, probably 85–90% of them, but it's the ones that they won't remember that produce your future oak trees. Now, you don't always have to see the animal or the bird to know that they're here. Take this little hole, and there are several of them all around me. Now, this has been dug out by a badger. We know it's a badger because what it's done is it's been very dry recently, and the ground's been like concrete. And then we've had a bit of rain over the last couple of days, and the badger's come along and it's dug this hole out in search of grubs and earthworms. Now, it's a nocturnal animal, so we're not going to see it by day, but I wouldn't mind betting if you came back here and sat quietly at night, you'd have a good chance of seeing a badger as well. Well, there are paths going off in all directions here now, and actually, do you know what? You could walk through this wood all day. Don't get lost, mind. The rain's arrived, however, so for me, well, I'm going to start heading back.